Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Jasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjano. Jasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjano. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Vanachari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivraj Gajaja Shudra Shri Srimad His Divine Grace of Charana Ravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivraj Gajaja Shudra Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Saranta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya, BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samveda Bhakti Ki Jai. Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, assembled devotees. All glories, assembled devotees. All glories, all glories. Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Krishna Bodily Shmati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Vishesha Shandivari Bhaskati Adesh. Is it a little warm in here? Is that me? I'm asking. No, I'm asking. Is it warm in here? Is it?
I'm fine, but I'm not for staff.
Maybe just crack the door a little bit. Okay, because I'm going to heat up the room with my class today. So.
I don't know. It feels warm to me.
Oh, you just... So this morning's class. See? You're yawning, you're tired. It's hot in here. Okay. Put his feet in a bucket of ice. Keep him awake. Okay, so this morning's class is Canto 7, Chapter 15, Instructions for Civilized Human Beings. Verse 19 we'll be reading from. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. The question I have is that today is the, let's see here, disappearance day of Sri Narahari Shankar Thakur. Now, there's just a little bit I can read about him. Should we read about him first to get his mercy before class? Okay. Yeah. There's a few okay. Now, he's Srikhanda. You hear that town or village of Srikhanda. You hear about that in Chaitanya Charitamrita. They come every year. So he's from that town, Srikhanda. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associate. He's an associate of Lord Chaitanya. Sri Narahari Shankar Thakur. And his father was Rajo-guṇa. They were the 39th branch of the tree of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, and he was the 40th. Okay, and let me just jump down here. It says, Sri Narahari Shankar Thakur participated in all of Sri Gaurasundar's pastimes. His glories are uncommon in Braja, in Vrindavan. He is known as Madhumati, whose good qualities are unlimited. We'll get back to that. One day, Lord Nityananda arrived in Srikhanda and asked Narahari, all right, we know who you are. So where's the honey, Madhu? In Krishna Lila, Narahari is Saki, Madhumati, whose service is to supply honey to Sri Sri Radha Govinda and their associates. So Lord Nityananda said, where's the honey? Like that. So immediately he went to a nearby pond, filled a pot, which immediately turned into honey of the most nectarine kind. Nityananda Prabhu and his associates drank from this pot to their full unlimited satisfaction. And in the Chaitanya Mangala, it stated that Sri Gadadhar and Narahari Sakara were extremely dear to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And keep going here. Lochan Das Thakur was a disciple of Sri Narahari Shakar. It says, he introduces the spiritual master in that book by saying the following, my Thakur, my spiritual master, Sri Narahari Das Thakur, who is very influential amongst the medical caste. Does that mean he preached to them or he was a doctor? Do you know? Okay. He is continuously absorbed in Krishna prema, and in fact his body knows nothing but Krishna. To his followers, he speaks about nothing other than love of Krishna. He was previously known in Vrindavan as Madhumati and was a storehouse of sweetness, honey, and very dear to Radharani. Going down just a little bit more, a few more things here. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Gaura Arti Kirtan sings of some of that intimate service to that he performed for Lord Chaitanya. Kiba Narahari Adhikar Chamara Dulaya. Narahari is fanning Gaur Sundar with a yak-tailed chamara fan. He was a very expert singer and poet. He composed many songs about the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Skip down here. Here's an interesting point. Narahari was the only devotee to do Gaura Kirtan in Gaura Sundar's presence. Now there was, whenever the devotees started chanting, glorifying Lord Chaitanya as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he would shut down the Kirtan, didn't want to hear it. But he allowed him to glorify him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was the only devotee who led Kirtan who would allow him to do that. Ordinarily, if anyone would praise Mahaprabhu in his presence or chant his holy name, he would block his ears and call out, Vishnu, Vishnu. Narahari, however, enjoyed the special privilege of being able to sing about Mahaprabhu in a very unique mood and with sweet descriptions of his transcendental beauty without objection from Mahaprabhu. But alas, there is little else known about him. This is where we end. And he said he had disappeared today on this Ekadasi. Yes.
I remember during the kind of the 80s, things were a little unsettled in ISKCON. You know the history. There was some questions about zonal acharyas, and he was quoted. He had wrote something about if the zonal acharya, or I didn't say zonal acharya, but if the spiritual master deviates and doesn't go according to the parampara, then you can reject.
Yes.
So that was when I first introduced to Narahari Sarkarta.
Very intimate associate of Lord Nityananda Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srimati Radharani Saki. So this is text 19 of the Bhagavatam. Asantutasya Viprasya Tejo Vidya Tapo Yashaha Shanvantindriya Lauyena Jnanam Chaivavarkiryate Asantutasya Viprasya Tejo Vidya Tapo Yashaha Shravantindriya Lauyena Jnanam Chaiva Vakiryate Asantushtasya Viprasya Tejo Vidya Tapo Yashaha Sarvatindriya Lauyena Jnanam Chaiva Vakiryate Asantushtasya Viprasya Tejo Vidya Tapo Yashaha Sarvantindriya Lauyena Jnanam Chaiva Vakiryate. Anyone like to chant?
Asantushtasya viprasya tejo vidyatapo yashaha Sravantindriya lauyena Jnanam chaiva vakiryate Asantushtasya viprasya tejo vidyatapo yashaha Sravantindriya lauyena Jnanam chaiva vakiryate Santustasya viprasya tejo vidyatapoyasaha sravantindriya jnanam chaiva kirete.
Ladies.
Santudasya viprasya
Santudasya viprasya
tejo vidyatapoyasaha
Tejo vidyatapoyasaha
sravantindriya lalyena
sravantindriya laulena
jnanam chaiva vakiryate
jnanam chaiva vakiryate.
Asantushtasya viprasya
Vasantustasya viprasya
tejo vidyatapoyasaha
tejo vidyatapoyasaha
sravantindriya lalyena
sravantindriya laulena
jnanam chaiva vakiryate.
jnanam chaiva vakiryate.
Okay, word for word. Asantushtasya, of one who is not self-satisfied. Viprasya, of such a brahmana. Tejaha, strength. Vidya, education. Tapaha, austerity. Yashaha, fame. Shravanti, dwindle. Indriya, of the senses. Lauyena, because of greed. Jnanam, knowledge. Cha, and. Eva, certainly. Avakriyate, gradually vanishes. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Because of greed, wow, that's interesting. Actually, 20 is the one with the purport, right? Okay. Because of greed for the sake of the senses, the spiritual strength, education, austerity, and reputation of a devotee or brahmana who is not self-satisfied dwindle, and his knowledge gradually vanishes. Poof, poof, just goes away. Text 20. Kamasyantam hi kshut tribhyam krodhasyaitat paladayat jano yati na lobasya jitva bhuktva disho bhuvaha. The strong bodily desires and needs of a person disturbed by hunger and thirst are certainly satisfied when he eats. Similarly, if one becomes very angry, that anger is satisfied by chastisement and its reaction. But as for greed, even if a greedy person has conquered all the directions of the world or has enjoyed everything in the world, still he will not be satisfied. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, 37th verse, it is stated that lust, anger, and greed are the causes of the conditioned soul's bondage in this material world. Kama esha krodha esha Rajo-guṇa samudbhavaha. When strong, lusty desires for sense gratification are unfulfilled, one becomes angry. This anger can be satisfied when one chastises his enemy. But when there is an increase in lobha or greed, which is the greatest enemy caused by Rajo-guṇa, the mode of passion, how can one advance in Krishna consciousness? If one is very greedy to enhance his Krishna consciousness, this is a great boon. Tattaloyam ekalam mulyam. This is the best path available. Om agyantimirandasya kananjana salakaya Chakshulin Nina Taismai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupagadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Vanchakapadrubhascha Kripasindhu Bevacha Patidanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So by your blessings and good wishes, I'll try to say a few things. So sometimes the question comes up, what's the reaction for sense gratification, being absorbed in sense gratification, or sometimes it doesn't, because it goes right along with this, offending devotees, being offensive and so on. In this first text 19, what's brought up is just the fact of life, of spiritual life. It says here, because of greed for the sake of the senses, our spiritual strength, education, austerity, and reputation just disappear. What was that? Who was that asking me that the other day? Now, I don't know if it was in class or whatever. Someone was asking me this question. I think sometimes it has to do with aparad and offenses and so on. But something happens where one just loses their desire to be Krishna conscious. And that's the greatest malady and lament. It just kind of just goes away. Yes, there's a verse, I think in the 10th canto, also in other places, it says, you offend a great personality, then everything is lost. They're just, you're materially also, everything's just taken away. But our spiritual strength and learning and enthusiasm and all of that, it's a gift. And Krishna can take it away. Krishna can take it away. So we shouldn't be so cocky about it. You know what the word cocky means? Does anyone not know what that word means? Everyone knows what it means. Okay. Do you know what that means? You're a little cocky? How would you describe that, oh best of the English editors? Cocky.
Prideful and wanting to show your pride.
Yeah. Okay, so, but, this greed for the sake of the senses, and we see that people who are shameless in their pursuit for sense gratification, and even it's sometimes considered to be a great quality today, that one has no shame. There was a saying back in the 60s, grab all the gusto you can. I think it was a beer commercial, wasn't it? I mean, you only live once, grab all the gusto you can. Right? So that was it. So shameless, and they lose all good qualities. They lose all good qualities. So that's yes, yeah, actually maybe that's what I was listening to, because I'm listening to that section of the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada's classes on Ajamil now. Just everything is, probably he wasn't that advanced, because he wouldn't, if he was really advanced, he would have not fallen down. He would have just like, oh my God, head home. But he just let it get to him. And then just gradually everything got lost and covered, in that sense, lost and covered. So, there's that saying that austerity is the wealth of the Brahmins. The more austere we are, in other words, in controlling our senses, it doesn't mean that if someone lives on one chickpea a day. We had one brahmachari here, I won't mention names, but in his early days he was made it a point that he wasn't eating anything, just a few chickpeas or this or that, until he was found out he was going into the walk-in and just eating as much as he wanted when no one was looking. So he's like, Prabhu, what are you doing in here? All this prasadam all over his face. So artificial. So one should take what they need. But the point is austerities, rising early, and the different austerities we have in our life, these give one a spiritual strength. And these kind of, if you don't do these, then we become victimized and we lose our strength, our spiritual strength. It gives us strength. Austerity gives one strength, the different austerities. So that's what happened. What's the problem? They say, what's the problem? If you don't get up early, you don't get up every day, if you don't do this, you don't do that. The problem is, gradually, your desire to become Krishna conscious will just, the word here is vanish. It just kind of just goes away. And even if you want it to come back, you may be helpless. You say, sometimes you meet devotees, I really wish I had that enthusiasm I used to have, and this and that. Why is it gone? Where did it go? And this verse here is explaining exactly what happens. If we, that's the downside. People just want to know what's wrong with a life of sense gratification. Materially and spiritually, one loses all good qualities. One loses all good qualities like that. Because one becomes a servant of the senses. How do you say that in Sanskrit? Do you know that yet? Go das. Servant of the senses. Go means senses, das means servant. So you got go das and you got go swami. One who control the senses, one who become senses are there, so we have to become Goswami and try to give up being Godas. Because now the next thing here is described about Godas, you could say, because the very important point is that we have this kam, krodh, this lust, anger, and then even greed. And the verse is saying, if you're really, really, really hungry and you really want to eat, you can. If you get something to eat, you're satisfied. Okay, whew, that's gone. Whew. Is everyone going to fast to lunch today? Or is there breakfast? Okay, well, let's say it was a fast day and everyone fasted lunch, or later on say, I'm so hungry, I'm so hungry, I'm so hungry. Then you finally get some prasad. That distress, that pushing goes away. Okay? So the next point it makes here, similarly, if one's very angry, raise your hand if you ever got really angry with someone. Ramapa, do you ever get angry? You must get disturbed, maybe not angry. Okay. So I was listening to this podcast the other day in Kastuba at the Bhakti Center. He was saying he met Vaikuntha and Jahnavi in Mayapur recently. They were there. He was just saying how they're just so, peaceful. Couldn't get mad at anything, disturbed anything. And part of the interview was Vaikuntha said he saw shelter once back in the 80s, and he couldn't understand it. Couldn't understand all that screaming and yelling, and he couldn't understand the lyrics. It just was, for some reason, because they're devotees, and they were devotees at the time, and he just couldn't relate to it at all. And they were laughing. It's just, yeah, it's true. It's not Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. That's what Kastuba said. So, anyways, such a kind, simple, mellow devotee, Vaikuntha. Everybody's famous for that. Because he's Vaikuntha, like that. But if someone gets angry, it says, someone get angry, but that anger, if you express it, it can dissipate. It can dissipate. It says here, you become very angry, it's satisfied by chastisement. Let me give him a piece of my mind. Is that what they say? Let me give him a piece of my mind. Like that. And you just yell it, you get upset. Right? Why'd you do that, Prabhu? I told you a million times not to do that. Why don't you do that? And then you feel better. Maybe you feel better. Sometimes you go, oh boy, I should never have said that. But generally speaking, you get it out of your system, like that. In fact, they have that. Was it Primal Scream? I don't know if it's still around. No, I remember listening to a lecture, Jayadvaita Maharaj was talking about different kinds of pop psychology and different things and all that. And he mentioned primal scream, that people just let it all out. They just scream like that. I feel much better. I just screamed. So, ours, yes, that's the primal scream. Nitai Gaur! So, but it says here, it can actually relieve the anger. But when it comes to greed, and it's interesting, it says even a person has conquered all directions. Greed means you want more and more and more and more. You just want more and more and more. And if you conquer all the directions of the world, and if you enjoyed everything in this world, and we have a very, very pathetic idea of enjoyment as human beings in Kali Yuga compared to what's going on in the heavenly planets and so on. But that's Hiranyakashipu. We just read about him. He actually conquered the whole universe, and at his disposal he had every single enjoyment in the whole universe at his disposal. And he's not portrayed as a very happy person at all, right? That was miserable. Yeah, and then on top of that, his son becomes a devotee. So, but the point is, the senses are never satisfied. Krishna gives an example in the Bhagavad Gita, Dushparain Analena Cha. Says it's never satisfied and they burn like fire. When the senses are contaminated by the mode of passion, which means, in Krishna, this verse in the Bhagavad Gita, this is being referred to, Kamesha, Krodesha, Rajo-guṇa, Samudbhava. Arjun's asking, why is someone impelled to act sinfully even if they don't want to? In other words, what pushes the living entity? What's going on? And Krishna's making the point that our senses are contaminated with the desire, lust. Kama means you desire to enjoy the material world. It's a type of contamination, and therefore everything's perverted. You know, just like sometimes you get ill and you have no sense of taste. Wasn't that one of the symptoms of COVID?
Yeah.
You couldn't taste anything, but there's different times you get sick and your sinuses are all blocked. You can't taste anything, or you don't feel like doing anything. Your senses are sick; they're not healthy. So that's what's going on here. The senses in their purified state are completely aligned with the will of the Lord and enjoying devotional service. That's pure senses. When the senses are purified, what is that verse? Atakshi Krishna namadi nabhavad gram indriyaya. The senses, the indriyas, they need to become purified. Right now they're contaminated by the process of devotional service. And beginning with the tongue, jivado. The tongue is the very first sense, most important sense to engage in devotional service. And you do that by two different ways you engage the tongue. Do you know one? Tegam prasadam. Okay, I figured you'd go for that one. What's the next one? Govardhan. What's chanting? So these two things. And by engaging the tongue and hearing and chanting and taking prasadam and then the rest of the process of devotional service, one becomes completely purified. And with purified senses, one can actually enjoy life. It's like when you get over that illness and you don't have the big headache anymore and you can taste and you're not achy and this and that, you feel good. You're back from the other side. So what's being said here are these, Krishna's pointing out that these, as long as our senses are contaminated by these kam and krodh, and of course lobha is mentioned here also, greed. In fact, Krishna later on in the Gita describes them as three gates or doorways, dwara, going somewhere down like that. Narakadeshu, is that it? Narakeshu? Narakadeshu, to hell? Kasidam. Yeah. Nash, everything gets lost. So anyways, these are the three. And he says an intelligent person has to learn to control these things because it won't do us any good. Things get out of control. Sometimes I do this. I've done this. You look at any problems in your own life or in the world. I see on the news here in sunny San Diego or Pacific Beach or California or good old USA or anywhere on the globe. Any problem, it's one of these three things or a combination thereof. Name a problem that's happening right now in your life or in the world or whatever. War. So war is caused by, right, that. Greed, I want more, I'm going to invade your country and this and that and so on, right? Anger's there, and they just yell at each other, right? This whole political thing that's went on and is going on, they're just angry at each other. Right? And people get in trouble with their lust, like that. Right? They fall from grace. But they have the whole thing where they're vetting these new members of the cabinet or something. And a few have had to step down already because of impropriety in the past. So any problem, you feel, it's one of these three. And that's even, we want to be introspective in our own life. If we have any problem, it's because of one of these three things. So Krishna's saying, he's pointing out, very kindly pointing out where the problem is. Where they say diagnosis is 90%? 90% of the cure? So Krishna's, Dr. Krishna here, is giving his diagnosis. And what the problem is, because it's called Bhava Rog. What does Bhava Rog mean? Bhava Rog. What does Bhava Rog mean? Yeah, it's the disease of this material. Rog means disease. So we all, sometimes it's described as a heart disease. We all have a heart disease. Real bad. And that heart, the heart is filled with all these mala, right? Dirty things. So that's our heart disease. So what's going on? What's the diagnosis? Oh my goodness. You got the stethoscope there on the heart. Oh my goodness, I hear calm, crowed, and lobe. Just going crazy in there. That's what it is. That's Krishna's diagnosis. And later, just after these few verses, he talks about the mind, the intelligence, the senses are the sitting places of this. There they are. That's where they just like certain diseases lodge in different parts of the body, you know. So these are lodged in our senses, our indriyas, our mana, and our buddhi, like that. And that's the problem. So we have to learn we have to purify, we have to control our senses and purify our senses of these three types of contamination. And contamination actually is a mild description. Because Krishna says that they are the, what is that? Destroyer of self-realization, greatest enemy. That's a lot heavier than saying contamination, right? Destroys everything. Everything will be destroyed if we're not careful about controlling these things. And even in a gentler society, they know that. You can't just do whatever you want. You have to regulate your sense gratification, you know. But we know that sooner or later things will get out of hand. That's the problem. Sooner or later things get out of hand. So that's why one has to become purified, come to goodness and pure goodness. And these kind of verses, they're here in purports to try to help us understand that this is just the law of nature. We're not going to be an exception. We're not going to be an exception. And until that day comes that we actually have a handle on it, control on these things, we'll never really be happy. We'll never be happy. As Prabhupada says at the end of this verse here in the purport, the person who wants more, we all want more. You know proof of that is? Amazon Prime. Isn't it? That's why that man is so rich. What's his name?
If you all want more, you don't want to get off the couch with it.
You know, credit also, you know, but you just go on and whatever you want.
The thing is, you don't have to even get off your couch.
Yeah, right there. So that's proof. The idea, well, if I just ordered one more thing, if I just ordered one more thing, if I just ordered one more thing, it's so easy. But you're never happy. Whether they say statistically kids are happier on Christmas before the presents are opened than after the presents are opened. Now that seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? But psychiatrists, psychologists have done all these tests, you know, with kids. I guess they have their clipboard there underneath at the tree. How happy are you, Johnny? 1 to 10. I'm about a 10, you know. And then after he opens the presents, I'm about a 5, 4. Why? Because two things. You didn't get what you wanted, right? You didn't get what you wanted. Someone got something better than you. And just the nature of the, what is that called? Diminishing returns. You get the toy, you play with it, and it's like, you know, I thought it would be a lot more fun than this. So statistically, and that's just, there's a, you know, kids at Christmas, but it means anytime there is an opportunity for sense gratification, you're actually happier before you engage in that sense gratification. Then afterwards, it's like, you're actually more unhappy. And that's, you're thinking, if I get it, I'll be happy. But actually, you're happier before you even get it. It's all in the mind. It's all in the mind. It's all in the mind. That's what it is. The voice of calm, crowed, like that, lobha. So Narada Muni here, he's one who's speaking, right? He's giving his sage advice. Is that where the term comes from, I guess, from the Bhagavatam, sage advice. Just letting us know this is just the law of nature. The law of nature, and heaven help those who don't have this information, because then we're condemned or don't act on it, because we have it. So actually our position, my position, is worse than those who don't even know. Because I've been given good instruction, you don't follow it, what can be said? So heaven help those who don't even know. You know, they're lost. They're just being pulled by their, what's that called? Durni Desha? Bad masters? That verse you quote from time to time, the bad masters, you just keep, they're never happy. Never happy. They're just not, there's there in that song also, Bhajahure Mana Shri Nandanandana, about I've served only bad masters. So what's a bad master? A boss, a lousy boss. In other words, you work so hard, but they're never happy with it. They're never happy. Has anyone had a bad boss like that? They're just never happy. Like that. Or you're working with somebody who's just never happy. How do you feel working at a place like that? No matter what you do, they're not happy. You just did a fantastic job, and they go, it could have been better. Like that. I'll see you on Monday. Like that. They're just never happy with you. So our senses are like that. They're never happy. You can do the best. You just serve them so nicely. They're never happy. And that's just the nature of this material world. But Krishna, he's different. Even the slightest thing, Krishna is very, very happy. Even the slightest endeavor, the spiritual master and Krishna are very happy. And we'll just end with this. It's in the end, the last line in the purport. If you want to, and it also in the purport here in the Bhagavad Gita to the verse that Prabhupada quoted, Prabhupada brings that up. You can engage lust, anger, and greed in Krishna's service. You can. The intense desire to be lauyam. You want to be Krishna conscious. You want in anger, Hanuman. If you want to get angry at those who are offending the devotees, like that. So these emotions are there. There's a way to engage them in Krishna's service. If you engage them for your own sense gratification, it won't lead anywhere except for unfortunate situations and so on. So we can end here because I've gone over time. There must be some questions or comments or corrections.
I have a short comment.
Okay.
This verse is Tatta Laulim Ekala Moolam, but he's quoting that famous verse, Krishna Bhakti Dasa Bhavatavati. But there's another really nice verse where a devotee prays to become a miser. It's from the Pajavali. Vichayani, Vichayani, Vichinchani Punak Punaha. Kripanasya Dananiva Tvannamani Babandagaha. Compelled to constantly collect and contemplate his hoard, the miser contemplates his wealth with avaricious aims. Please bless me to become a miser who's compelled, O Lord, to constantly collect and count and contemplate your names.
Jai.
So that's like this dovetailing greed.
Yeah. The desire to join this material world. How do you dovetail it? Well, if you want to take well, of course you have the example of the gopis attracted to Krishna in that Madhurya Ras. That's on a very, very high platform. But the intensity of desiring something, we have to transfer the object of our desire to Krishna from sense enjoyment in this material world. So, on our platform, that's what we're doing. We want to intensely serve. In other words, that's what we want to do. To serve Krishna. To serve Krishna. You can't dovetail, just like someone, if someone's a butcher, saying, well, you can dovetail that in Krishna's service. There's certain things you just can't dovetail in Krishna's service. You just got to do something else. So, but desire, intense desire, that's what's being brought up here. You have to transfer it, Krishna to be the object of that desire. I hope that helps.
If somebody says they're very lusty or something, how do they dovetail that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's certain things you just can't. I'll be a debauchee for Krishna, like that. So, on the materialistic level, there's certain things we can't dovetail for Krishna. On the spiritual level, you see in the spirit, all those emotions are there, but that's on the completely pure platform. Completely pure platform. There's nothing degrading about that. So, Krishna says, Kamosmi Bharatarshaba. So if you have the desire to enjoy the opposite sex, well then there's marriage, and then there's children and Krishna consciousness and so on. Krishna says that he's sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. So there's that, so you can engage that desire. There's some way can be engaged in Krishna service, but there's certain things you just can't. I'm sorry, it's just not part of the. There's no way to do it because it's the antithesis of Krishna consciousness. Like that. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you, Prabhu. You mentioned in the beginning of the class how sometimes we don't have interest to practice Krishna consciousness anymore, and Prabhu said due to a great offense. So I'm just kind of thinking of one scenario where, let's say, you really willingly make an offense or keep making offenses.
Are you making plans or something, or?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Just trying to understand from a different vision. And so you make that offense and you lose the desire to practice Krishna consciousness, but then somehow or other you don't go away. You still continue doing it even without enthusiasm, desire, without anything like that. So would you be able to win the favor of Krishna in this way if you just continue no matter what?
Yeah, that's a very good question. In other words, we've made a mistake. How can we remedy the mistake? So yes, you stay. Our devotional service is punctuated by some days are good and some days are bad. Sometimes we really feel like getting up. Some days we don't. Whatever. And let's say we've made some mistakes and offended devotees or this and that, but you stay with the process of devotional service in due course of time, and also try to figure out what was the cause of it. If it's a certain devotee you offended, then you beg forgiveness and so on. But yes, you stay with the process, and gradually, by Krishna's pleasure, whatever was detrimental will be removed. Yeah. Going away won't help. It's just like if you're in the shower, stay in the shower, you'll get clean. If you're in the hospital, sooner or later you'll get better. So you don't go away. And it's not uncommon that, sometimes we don't feel enthusiastic and sometimes we do, whatever. But we have to be introspective. Why is it I'm just not feeling, just don't feel Krishna conscious? What am I doing? Or maybe I'm not controlling my senses. Maybe it's that 15 glubjamins I had last night. I just can't pull it together this morning or something like that. There's a reason. There's a reason for everything. So part of our devotional service is being contemplative, introspective. It's a science. And adjustments have to be made like that. So
if you become offensive, you just stay with the process, continue.
Well, don't stay with the process of being offensive.
Yeah, that's
you give up your offensive mentality.
I was trying to say. Yeah, you can still be offensive, continue being offensive, even though
then it's never going to get better. And in fact, Krishna may remove you for your own good, right? Just like you're in a situation you don't know, you sometimes have to be removed for your own good. You'll hurt yourself, right? Just like a little toddler or child, just over there, they're going to hurt themselves, So Krishna very kindly will remove someone if it looks like they're going to hurt themselves, by continuing their offensive attitude. In fact, if you examine over the years, devotees have gone away, if you want to call it that. It seems to be really they were offensive. It's not a problem necessarily with the senses or this or that or whatever, or poor sadhana even. The real thing is they're offensive. That's the real nail on the coffin, as they say. So one has to be very, very careful. Our offensive mentality. Everything else can be worked out, but when someone gets offensive and rude and offensive and so on, that Krishna just doesn't like that. There's no room for it. And Krishna will remove that person. Like that, give them a chance to, what do they call it, a time out? Give you a time out to think about things like that. So.
I also heard from Dhammahatmya, and it says if somebody had committed offenses and they're not sure whom and all that, they do Dham Parikram and beg they can overcome that mentality and rectify themselves.
Yeah, good. I think we just need to end here. Can we end here?
Or
You have
invite
another
everyone
question?
to a festival, and the one who doesn't come, he offended them.
Okay. That story about, was it Rupa Goswami?
Rupa Goswami, yeah.
Yeah, Rupa Goswami, yes. So we can end here. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Dhanam Pavani Dev Vaishnava.